when people ask me about FPV, people who don't know it or have never experienced it or don't know what it is, and they're like, "What's it like?" or "How do I get into it?" Those questions are so, I don't know the term, but you can't. It's not a yes or no answer, and it's all 100,000% about preference and ideally what you aim to do with it or do it for, I guess you could say. Like what you want, that is going to determine what you're going to want to buy or need to buy. And with FPV, like eventually, at first, there's so much stuff that you don't want to even mention that is involved with FPV because you don't want to scare people away from it and you don't want to overwhelm them with all this other extra stuff that to them has nothing to do with drones and flying FPV, right? But things like video formats and baud rates or um, graphics cards, things that you wouldn't even consider when you're thinking about flying a drone are a factor in that. Like you eventually you might want to get a simulator for your FPV drones so that you're not using real parts and real money when you crash them and break them from trying to push yourself to become a better pilot. So you might want to play a sim. Well, okay, that's not that big a deal, except, well, if you don't have a drone or you don't have FPV, maybe you're a gamer, so you might have like a PlayStation controller or an Xbox controller, or maybe you're a PC gamer and you have a PC controller or you use mouse and keyboard. That's not going to work for a drone simulator because, I mean, it would like literally, physically work, but it's not going to translate the same as you know what I mean? This versus this, it's not the same thing. So you learning how to be a badass flying in this way, and then you getting a real drone and finding out you have to fly it this way, but you've never flown that way, it didn't really do you any good on that drone simulator because you were teaching yourself bad habits by using instruments and tools that do not um, translate to what you're going to be using physically. So there's a lot to it, and this is kind of a little, I guess it's a rant, it's just an explanation, a little bit talking about FPV as far as like getting into it and not having any experience with it. Eventually, you're going to need some sort of, I don't even know what you would categorize it as, but I'm just going to call it camera experience or video experience, I guess, more so, as well as computer experience. And me, when I got into this, I had neither of those. Like, I thought, I was like, yeah, I've recorded videos, but that's like, that doesn't mean anything. I didn't know anything about video editing. I didn't know anything about color grading. I didn't know anything about video formats or codec or any of that stuff. So there's a lot of different stuff that will come along with it later on. Don't think you need to know all of this stuff to get into it. You don't. You don't need to know any of this shit. As a matter of fact, just do your research on figure out what you want to do with this drone first. That's the first step, and then shop around, research, watch some reviews of people reviewing products and models of different drones and stuff, and figure out which one you like, or which one has all of the features that you're looking for the use case scenario that you want it for. And then go from there. Everything else comes later. You learn everything as you go. You're going to make mistakes. Don't expect everything to just work. Because that's the worst thing you could do in FPV. A lot of stuff is open source. And a lot of stuff, I hate to say it, but doesn't just work. There's other work involved to get it to work. So that's something to consider when you're getting into FPV. People see it and they react to it and they're like, oh my God, it looks amazing. I want to get into it. And that is amazing. That's how I got into it. That's what piqued my interest. And I didn't care about the hardships. I didn't care about any of the learning experiences until I started experiencing them and realized how much of a pain in the ass it really was. Then I would flip. But it still never stopped me. Like, yes, I had a few times where I wanted to give up, and I almost did. And I'm glad I didn't, because, and it still is every time I use it, teaching me patience that I can transfer into any and every other aspect in my life, which is extremely important for me and my future and future relationships and things like that. So I love FPV. It's done a great amount for me mentally. It's probably done more for me mentally than it has in any other way. And that's no cap at all. Like, no bullshit. Like 100% bro. And I'm super gracious and grateful. And just thanks for everybody in Oklahoma who helped me in the FPV community. I love you guys. It's some of them that I didn't even know that long, and they would help me with anything. And I really appreciate it. It's amazing. I've met an unbelievable amount of incredible human beings through this passion and this interest and this hobby. And thank you guys, all of you. Thank you, FPV. Thank you, FPV gods. I'm still here, still going. 2023, baby, let's go.